Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. At the start of each year, we see reports where they're talking about a doomsday clock and how close that we are to a human-made doomsday. Well, I've often wondered, what is this doomsday clock? And to be honest, how do we use it? Why do we use it? And so off I went and did my research. The doomsday clock is a metaphor. It's a metaphor representing how close humanity is to self-destruction due to nuclear weapons and climate change. A global catastrophe that's represented by midnight on the clock. It's set every year in late January. The original clock was created at the University of Chicago in 1947, and it was done by a group of scientists that were part of the Manhattan Project. This is the project that worked on the development of the US nuclear bomb. I'm now going to show you the clock settings on screen. This is since its initial creation in 1947. As you can see, it doesn't change every year, and it does go up and it goes down. It's gone up, the maximum was 17 minutes, but the lowest, currently 90 seconds, that's what was released this year. It's quite interesting to look at the changes, especially when taking into account the varying political environments for each change. Now, we're not going to discuss those in this video. If it's something you are interested in, please drop a comment and I can put that to a list of future videos. Let's take a look at the history of the clock. Well, the story actually starts a few years before the first clock was created. In 1939, Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, they sent a letter to the US President Franklin Roosevelt, and they were warning him about the dangers of an atomic bomb and detailing their suspicions that Germany may be working on one. During the subsequent years, many scientists, they were recruited to work on the Manhattan Project. A lot of them, they didn't actually know what they were working towards. In June 1945, Szilard and a number of the other Manhattan Project scientists, they signed the Frank Report. This is a cautionary document that was sent to the US Secretary of War. In this document, they asked for the US to perform a public test in an uninhabited area and to use this as a warning to Japan to force them to surrender. When this didn't move forwards, a second petition was sent that was signed by 70 of the scientists. In August 1945, the US, they dropped 2 nuclear bombs, one on Hiroshima, the other on Nagasaki. Szilard, he described this as one of the greatest blunders in history. The Manhattan Project scientists, well, they met again, and in 1945, they formed the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists of Chicago. Bit of a mouthful. That was later shortened to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. This group, it had a mission to equip public policymakers and scientists with the information needed to reduce man-made threats to our existence. And the Bulletin, it continues to this day as an independent non-profit organisation. The first few issues of the Bulletin, they were mainly articles, but they wanted to appeal to a wider audience, so the editors, they thought, well, they need to have a well-designed cover for it. The illustrator, Martel Lansdorf, agreed to create an illustration for this. She created an illustration of a minimalistic clock that was set at 7 minutes to midnight. That's the first setting for the clock. Nowadays, if you want to see the actual Doomsday Clock, it's located at the offices of the Bulletin in Chicago. Until 1973, the setting of the clock, that was decided by the editor of the Bulletin. He would then have the illustration updated to reflect the new setting and would publish the reason for why the setting was set within the pages of the Bulletin. Nowadays, it's set by the Bulletin's Science and Security Board. It's made up of 18 experts from a diverse background. They meet twice a year where they discuss current events, policies and trends. They also go out and they consult with a wide range of other people from various different disciplines to get as much input as possible from relevant experts. When coming up with a setting, the board takes into consideration things like climate change, nuclear proliferation, and other disruptive technologies, including bio and cybersecurity, AI, and a lot of things that are continually evolving through the scientific method. The clock's position, it then gets announced in late January. The aim of the clock is not to scare people. It's not to make them fearful. Rather, it's there to try and spur them to action. It's often compared to the canary in the coal mine. This is where it would let the miners know if they need to take quick action to save their lives. There are some criticisms to the Doomsday Clock. These include things like it being a political stunt intended to scare people, it being inconsistent and not based on any objective indicators. It plays on humanity's historical pessimism, and that means it's comparing itself to other predictions, but they may not have been fulfilled. It's accused of overestimating developments in areas like nuclear testing and formal arms control. The other big contention is how they'd come up with a setting. Different areas, they may not have the same impact to humanity. An example, total nuclear destruction. It's not in the same league as climate change. I found this topic really, really interesting. I know that we hear about it at the start of each year and then everything seems to go quiet for the rest of the year. It was interesting to see and get an understanding for the history behind it. I didn't realise it went all the way back to 1947. And also to get a little bit of an insight into how it's set. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I love researching stuff. If you've got any topic you'd like me to do some research in and create a video on, please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart a conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.